Welcome back to Altnabreac Towers, Episode 4, The Beginnings of Social Media, Part 2. Just a reminder, the following story is a work of fiction inspired by true events. Elizabeth Howe was calmly sipping her morning tea when the driveway shuddered, as if it had just received some very, very bad news. She peered out the window. A massive dumper truck was creeping forward, its horn blaring a sound like a kazoo being strangled by a particularly irritated walrus. "Ian!" she shrieked, sending a spray of tea across the kitchen counter. "The driveway! It's under siege!" Ian Thomas Appleby, crouched under his tinfoil hat, which was now extravagantly decorated with fairy lights and a dangling colander, sprang into action. Kettle alarm system, a chaotic network of teapots, string, and one very rebellious saucepans, creaked like a miniature war had just broken out. One of the kettles rocketed across the kitchen, narrowly missing his head. "They're testing me," Ian thought. "Yes, or worse. The kettle is sentient. Probably just network rail," Ian suggested weakly. "Paths, espionage. Maybe it's both, possibly with mind control." "Paths," Elizabeth shrieked, climbing onto the windowsill like a caffeinated superhero. "Today they take the driveway. Tomorrow, the chickens. Or worse, my sanity." Just then, a particularly judgmental-looking hen strutted across the floor. "They might unionize first," Ian muttered to himself. "Or plot a coup, or install a poultry government."
Oh.
Definitely a coup. Within minutes, Elizabeth had transformed the living room into mission control. Operation Save Our Driveway. Tripods teetered precariously, GoPros blinked like confused little eyes, and an old camcorder, balanced on a stack of cookbooks, filmed mostly the ceiling. "They have a plan," Elizabeth declared, holding up a fluorescent map that was festooned with arrows, sticky notes, and little doodles of diggers wearing monocles and bowler hats. Ian squinted at it. "The plan, it involves digging." Elizabeth's glare could have liquefied steel, obviously. "And they are spy contractors, or worse, corporate mercenaries." Outside, the digger lurched forward again. Ian leapt onto a chair, raising a broom like a jousting lance. "I shall defend the driveway," he declared. The digger paused. Elizabeth gasped. "They hesitate. They fear Sir Cluxalot." By midday, the chaos had escalated. A contractor reversed a dumper truck right into a hedge, flinging dirt into the air like green fireworks. The kitchen, the kettles exploded in solidarity. Teapots pirouetted across the floor. Ian screamed so loudly that even the hens outside froze in perfect formation. At that precise moment, 2 British transport police officers arrived, notebook in hand, looking like they had just walked off the set of a procedural drama. "We're here to protect the contractor's workforce," one officer announced, carefully scanning the scene as though it were completely normal to encounter people waving fluorescent maps and performing interpretive mud dances. "Protect them?" Elizabeth shrieked, pointing at a dumper that had just flattened her favorite flower bed. "They are invaders. Corporate mercenaries. Chicken oppressors. And you," she jabbed a dramatic finger at the officers, "are complicit in this tyranny." Ian, clutching his colander helmet, whispered, "This is worse than I thought. They're sidekicks in a conspiracy against me. Or worse, the hens." Elizabeth's legal strategy involved hundreds of documents. Charts drawn in neon highlighter, and Ian wearing a wig fashioned entirely from old newspapers. "The evidence is irrefutable," Elizabeth proclaimed to the camcorder. "They do not own the driveway." Ian consulted his conspiracy chart of possible future events. If they gain control, the sheep might rise up. Riots are imminent, perhaps with guerrilla knitting or rogue yodeling. "Precisely. Order must prevail." "Ash," Elizabeth nodded gravely. Then a bulldozer appeared on the horizon. Elizabeth grabbed her camcorder. "Observe, ladies and gentlemen, the enemy in their natural habitat." Ian provided a dramatic narration. "Notice General Rolling Tongue, the roller ignoring all signs in human decency. And the British Transport Police, noble protectors of contractors, stand vigilantly, utterly useless against the true threat, chaos." The digger then ran over a fence, sending chickens airborne like living confetti. Elizabeth flailed. "The hens. Save the hens." Ian lunged forward with a garden rake, tripped over a wheelbarrow, and somersaulted directly into a mud puddle. A kettle exploded behind him, whistling triumphantly. "I'm a fallen hero," Ian thought, fallen but heroic. Elizabeth immediately launched a social media campaign. Today the driveway, tomorrow your sanity. Hashtag save the driveway, hashtag chicken lives matter, hashtag kettle chaos. The hens clucked indignantly, as if plotting their next move. One particularly aggressive hen, the self-proclaimed Lieutenant Peckington, pecked the camera lens like a tiny, feathered paparazzo. We must maintain order, possibly sabotage Ian, it seemed to be thinking. Later, a roller blocked the driveway completely. Elizabeth slid underneath it, while Ian performed a wild, interpretive mud dance to distract the operator, flinging mud, feathers, and a cloud of existential terror into the air. Ian, push the chickens, Elizabeth shouted from under the machine. They're cooperative. But only if we promise them extra corn, Ian replied, bowing deeply to Sir Cluxalot, who puffed out his chest like a feathery general. Eventually they retreated, muddy, feathered, and utterly exhausted. Ian banged a saucepan on the counter. Order in the court! Did anyone check if the digger is registered, or insured, or sentient? The British transport police officer stood nearby, clipboard in hand, nodding solemnly, as if their mere presence could deter flying teapots and rogue chickens. Ian whispered, they are ineffective, but at least they are official. Sort of recess involved tea and dramatic readings from the land registry. A kettle whistled mockingly. A hen pecked Ian's colander helmet. Ian screamed. I am doomed, doomed and heroic. The next morning, a runaway sheep charged across the driveway, colliding with Ian and sending him sprawling into a puddle. Elizabeth tried to save him, slipped on a freshly laid chicken egg, and landed on top of a haystack with a squawk capable of summoning reinforcements from the next county. The bulldozer returned at precisely 9:17 a.m. Elizabeth climbed a ladder. Ian, wielding a rake like a sword, attempted to herd the machinery but only succeeded in creating a mud explosion that sent chickens flapping in a panic. Then it happened, the chicken uprising of Altnabreac. Sir Cluxalot led a fearless charge directly at the digger's giant tire. Feathers flew everywhere. Ian, in a moment of inspired chaos, somersaulted onto the back of the dumper, becoming the chicken's entirely uncoordinated leader. Elizabeth, waving her fluorescent map like a flag of truce, accidentally smacked herself in the face with it. Kettles exploded, teapots spun violently. A saucepan bounced off the wall. Mud, feathers, and pure chaos reigned supreme. Elizabeth, finally untangled from the ladder, surveyed the disaster unfolding around her. Everything is still. In motion, she stated, with a strange sense of calm. Ian, now covered head to toe in mud and feathers, whispered, Do you think they'll try again tomorrow? Elizabeth's eyes narrowed with determination. Of course, but we shall be ready. With kettles, charts, ladders, wigs, and sheer unyielding audacity. And so Altnabreac Station remained part battlefield, part absurdist legend, and part chicken kingdom. Chickens ran wild, machinery lurked on the horizon, kettles whistled ominously. Insanity, that was long, long gone. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter of this incredible story. See you next time.